The reason most people never really learn anything isn't because they're not smart. It's because they were taught to prioritize input over output, reading, listening, memorizing, but never actually doing. Theory's fine, but theory without action becomes useless programs running in your mind, taking up storage. If you want to break free from that cycle, you have to retrain your mind. You have to move. Growing up, my parents would ask me after school, "What did you learn today?" And I'd sit there, struggling to come up with 2, maybe 3 words. Think about that. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, for 12 plus years. So 12 years of nothingness. And the hardest part to accept? I was composed of 12 years of nothingness. It sounds brutal, but look around. Millions of young men and women are wandering through their 20s and 30s, still trying to figure out what they're even good at. Not because they're lazy, but because they were trained to sit, absorb, and regurgitate, never to do. And if that sounds familiar, it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility to change it now. You have to rewire how you see learning, because right now, your mind has been programmed to think it needs to know everything before it moves. That's the trap. You think the moment you know enough, you'll finally feel ready to act. But readiness is a lie that keeps you locked where you are. If you want to learn how to edit videos, you don't start by watching 50 tutorials. You don't sit down and try to memorize every shortcut on Premiere Pro before you even touch a clip. You pick one tutorial, you watch a few minutes, and you start moving while you still feel uncomfortable. Because that discomfort you're avoiding, that's where the real learning happens. You don't get ready to act, you act. And through acting, you'll get ready. Most people waste years of their lives trying to collect enough information to feel confident enough to start. But the truth is, confidence doesn't come before action. It comes because of action. The more you move, the more you build. The more you hesitate, the heavier your mind gets until you paralyze yourself. So from this point forward, one input, one action, move. Even if you look stupid at first. Especially if you look stupid at first. Because that's when your mind finally stops absorbing and starts transforming. Sometimes you can't get hands-on immediately. Maybe you're learning car mechanics, but you don't have a car in front of you. Maybe you're trying to learn a language, but you're alone in your room. That's not an excuse to stop. You have another tool that most people never think to use. Your imagination. Close your eyes. Walk through the steps you would take if the real situation was right in front of you. Feel the wrench in your hand. Feel the weight of it. Visualize reaching under the hood, unscrewing the bolts, and pulling the pieces free. If you're learning how to play an instrument, close your eyes and imagine your fingers moving along the strings. Mental reps are real reps. Olympic athletes don't just train their bodies. They train their minds, running races, swimming laps, winning medals, all in their heads before they even step on a track. And they do that because the mind can't fully tell the difference between imagination and reality. When you rehearse action mentally, you're building neurological pathways the same way you would if you were doing the real thing. You hear it all the time. Grind, push harder, no days off. And look, there's a place for discipline. But if you're trying to force your mind to learn while it's exhausted, you're not building anything. You're tearing yourself down. Think about it. If you're falling asleep trying to cram new information, your brain isn't absorbing. It's just surviving. And whatever scraps you do manage to jam in there, they aren't going to stick. It's like trying to pour water into a cup that's already overflowing. You're not filling it. You're just spilling it. Learning under exhaustion doesn't just stall your growth. It actually sets you backwards. Because when you associate learning with fatigue, you start to resent the process itself. You start to believe you hate learning, but you don't. You hate trying to force yourself through it when your body and mind are begging you to stop. That's why power naps exist. That's why sleep is the greatest productivity hack that nobody respects. If you're drained, rest. 15, 20, 26 minutes at least. Take a reset. Then come back swinging stronger, focused, alive, ready to actually build something. Because real growth isn't about how much you can force in one sitting. It's about how consistently you can come back, day after day, sharp, rested, and hungry for more. You don't wait until you've mastered something to teach it. You teach it while you're still clumsy, still raw, and still halfway unsure. Because teaching isn't about showing how perfect you are. It's about organizing your mind in real time. The moment you try to explain something, your brain has to compress everything you know into a simple, coherent message. And the second you can explain something clearly, you find the holes in what you thought you knew. That's how you sharpen your edge. So when you learn something new, don't just absorb it. Open your mouth. Explain it to your reflection in the mirror. Talk to your dog about it like he's your new student. Set up your phone and pretend you're teaching an audience of 1,000, because it's when you teach that you truly begin to understand. When you're forced to find simple words, you're forced to really own the knowledge. And when someone asks you a question you didn't expect, you'll either collapse because you don't know the material well enough, or you'll level up immediately because it will force you to think deeper than you ever would have on your own. This in turn helps you learn the material even faster. Teaching is not the end of learning. Teaching is how real learning begins. Somewhere along the way, people convinced themselves that learning had to be a miserable grind. That if you weren't suffering, you really weren't working. But here's the biological truth. Your brain is built to chase pleasure. It's wired to reward you when you enjoy what you're doing. Every time you have fun learning a new skill, your brain drops dopamine into the system. It tells you, this is good. Keep coming back. That's not weakness. That's called thriving. And the best learners, the fastest adapters, they aren't the ones who grind themselves into dust. They're the ones who figure out how to turn the process into something they want to do. When learning feels like play, you stay in it longer. You push yourself harder. You recover faster. It becomes a positive feedback loop. Better results fuel better feelings, which fuel better results. But if learning feels like a punishment, you'll burn out faster than you think, no matter how disciplined you pretend to be. So whatever you're trying to learn, find the fun in it. Make games out of your progress. Celebrate small wins. Trick your brain into loving the process. And the skill will build itself before you realize how far you've even come. Here's the truth. You were trained wrong. You were built, layer by layer, into someone who thought memorization was mastery. Someone who thought knowing was the same thing as doing. But it's not. Real learning only begins when you step out of the loop you were handed. Action over input. Output first. Rest when needed. Fun wherever you can find it. And it doesn't matter if you're 18, 28, 38, or 58. You are not behind. You're right on time. The moment you realize the system you grew up in doesn't have to own you anymore. You don't need permission. You don't need another course, another book, another tutorial. You need movement. And the sooner you step into that messy, imperfect, beautiful action, the sooner you start becoming someone who learns faster, lives freer, and leaves the old version of yourself behind.